Hello everybody. Today I can evaluate negative exponents by moving what's being raised to the negative power. So we talked about the rules of exponents already. We can kind of refer back to this, which we spoke about in the last lesson, which we are going to utilize. When I'm multiplying exponents, I add the powers. When I divide them, I subtract the powers. When I'm raising a power to a power, I multiply the powers. when I am when I have this is a very important one, when I have an exponent outside parentheses, everything inside gets it. Anything to the zero power is 1. Today we're going to talk about negative exponents, and then next class we're going to talk about fractional exponents. So, negative exponents are fractions. Whenever you see a negative exponent, make a fraction. Negative exponents are fractions. Move what's being raised to the negative power. So, if it's on top, it moves to the bottom. If it's on bottom, it moves to the top. Either way, when I see a negative exponent, I make a fraction. So, I see a negative exponent, I make a fraction. I'm going to start in the top left, and I'm going to kind of go this way, and then I'm going to go to the bottom left, and I'm going to kind of go this way, and I'm going to deal with one thing at a time. So, the 14, is the 14 being raised to the negative exponent? No. You might be saying, well, isn't it 14x to the negative second? No, since there's no parentheses around it, the 14 is by itself, it's a single factor, it stays where it is. The x, is the x being raised to a negative power? Yes. So here's what I do. Since it's on top, it comes to the bottom, and when it moves, it becomes positive. Is y being raised to a negative power? No, so it stays where it is. Now I go to the bottom left. Negative 8. Is negative 8 being raised to a negative power? No. Even though 8 is a negative, it's not a negative exponent, so it stays where it is, so it stays in the bottom. X to the negative fifth. Is x being raised to a negative power? Yes. So since it's on bottom, it comes to the top, and when it moves, it becomes positive. Y to the fifth, is that being raised to a negative power? No, so it stays where it is. It stays on the bottom. So I'm going to kind of rewrite everything a little bit cleaner. I always want to put my number first, and then I want to write my variables in alphabetical order. Now my final step is to reduce. So here's how I reduce. Let's start with the numbers. 14 over negative 8. I can take a 2 out of both of those. That becomes 7 and 2. Now, there's a couple different ways of thinking about it with the variables, but here's what I think is the easiest way. If I have 5 x's on top and 2 x's on bottom. You don't have to do this, it might help, but I think it helps for you to understand it initially. I have 5 x's on top, I have 2 x's on bottom. When they cancel, there will be 3 x's left on top. So these cancel, and this becomes a 3. For the y's, I have 3 y's on top, I have 5 y's on bottom. When they cancel, I will have 2 y's left on bottom, so those are gone, and there's 2 left on bottom. So we clean it up. I have 7x to the third on top. I have negative 2y squared on bottom. That's my answer. Let's take a look at number 2. Now, with parentheses, you always want to get rid of the parentheses first. So we talked about this in the last lesson. When you have an exponent outside of parentheses, everything inside gets it. Everything inside gets it. So it's 3 squared, y squared, 3 to the negative second, z to the negative second, y to the fourth to the negative second, and we said when we raise a power to a power, we're multiplying the powers. And I get y negative 8. So your first step, and we're going to talk more about structure in the next lesson when we add another step to this and it gets a little bit more complicated, but you always want to deal with the parentheses, the exponent outside parentheses before the negative exponents. Now I want to deal with the negative exponents. I see negative exponents, so I make a fraction. Right now this whole thing is over 1. So is this 3 being raised to a negative power? No. Is this y being raised to a negative power? No. So it stays. Is this 3 being raised to a negative power? Yes. So it moves to the bottom and becomes positive. Is this z being raised to a negative power? Yes. So it moves to the bottom and becomes positive. Is this y being raised to a negative power? Yes. So it moves to the bottom and becomes positive. Now when I go to clean it up, 3 squared over 3 squared cancels. I have y squared over z squared y to the 8th. And now to reduce the y's, I have 2 y's on top. I have 8 y's on bottom. So if they cancel, I'm going to have 6 left on bottom. Since I have nothing left on top, I write 1. And that's my answer. And that's it. Another way of thinking about the y squared over y to the 8th, you could think of it this way. Well, I'm dividing them, so when I divide, I subtract the exponents. 2 minus 8 is negative 6, and then negative exponents are fractions, which brings it to the bottom. You could go that route. I think it's easier to just think of it as the 2 on top cancel, and there's 6 left on bottom. But if you want to think of it as division, you absolutely can. Either way will get you to the correct answer. I want you to try number 3 on your own. So if you want to pause, try number 3 on your own, and then unpause. Okay, now that you tried number 3 on your own, I see negative exponents, so I make a fraction. I start in the top left. Is x being raised to a negative power? No, so it stays where it is. Is y being raised to a negative power? Yes, so it moves to the bottom. Is x being raised to a negative power? Yes, so it moves to the top. Again, if it's being raised, it moves. If it's on bottom, it goes to the top. If it's on top, it goes to the bottom. Is y being raised to a negative power? Yes, so it goes on top. And it just froze. Oh no, how bad did I freeze? I didn't freeze at all. It just was not working well. All right, let me just erase this. Oh, my thing is just being weird. So this is a y squared. So now I want to clean it up. So x squared, on top I have x squared times x to the 3rd. That's x to the 5th. This thing isn't going well. Now my y's, I have 2 y's on top. I have 3 y's on bottom. So when they cancel, I'm going to have 1 y left on bottom. And that's my answer. All right, let's continue. So number 4, I always want to deal with the parentheses first. And there's a little bit of a shortcut that you can do here on top. Since anything to the 0 power is 1, this whole thing can become 1. On bottom, whatever is being raised to the whatever's outside parentheses goes to everything inside. So x to the 3rd to the negative 3rd is x to the negative 9th. Y to the 0 to the negative 3rd is y to the 0, because whenever you raise, because 0 times anything is 0. Negative exponents are fractions. So this x to the negative 9th that's on the bottom goes to the top and becomes positive. The y to the 0 on the bottom, well, y to the 0 is just 1, and my answer would be x to the 9th. So this question looks kind of confusing, but it's really not bad if you just follow the rules. Is there anything else I want to go over with you? I don't think so. I think at this point, you're on your own. Just remember to always do the parentheses first. And then if you see a negative exponent, so just get rid of parentheses first, and then negative exponents are fractions. Move whatever is being raised to the negative power and make it positive. Let's go over one more example, just to be sure we have everything. I know this thing changed in the middle. I've been having some technical issues over here. Nothing that serious, though. So let's just go over one more. Doesn't really matter which one. What looks scary? How about this one? I need to always deal with the parentheses first, so I have that -1 outside parentheses, so everything inside gets it, and when I raise a power to a power, I multiply. So 5 to the -2nd to the -1st would be 5 to the 2nd, a to the -3rd, b to the 4th. Again, I start by giving that exponent to everything inside, and when I raise a power to a power, I'm multiplying the powers. Now I see negative exponents. Well, negative exponents are fractions. So I make a fraction. 5 is not being raised to a negative power. A is, so it goes to the bottom. B is not, so it stays on top. Now I kind of clean it up. 5 to the 2nd power means 5 times itself twice. That's 25. Everything else is good. 25 b to the 4th over a to the 3rd. Choice 2 is your answer. That's it. Your classwork / homework is to finish this. We're going to build on this in the next lesson, so it's very important that you're comfortable with this before we move on to the next lesson. And that's it. To deal with negative exponents, move what's being raised to the negative power, but always do what's outside the parentheses. Always distribute an exponent outside the parentheses first. Have a great day.